Houston yesterday at the Verizon Wireless Theater, there was a really big rally against global warming legislation that's now making its way through Congress. As reported by the Houston Chronicle, which covered this event, the rally was organized largely by the American Petroleum Institute. And the crowd consisted, at least in part, of oil company employees bussed in specifically for the event. And honestly, this is sort of how we knew it would go down. As we reported 2 days ago, an internal memo from the president of the American Petroleum Institute that was marked sensitive was obtained by Greenpeace and given to reporters. In the memo, the American Petroleum Institute copped to organizing rallies like this. The memo asked oil companies who are members of the American Petroleum Institute to commit to their own employees attending these rallies. The goal, according to the American Petroleum Institute memo, was to deliver a, quote, loud message to members of Congress and to put a human face on the issue. And by human, let's be clear, we mean a human who has been bussed in by an oil company. At yesterday's rally, many oil company employees arrived wearing T-shirts and signs that featured the logo of an ostensibly grassrootsy sounding organization called Energy Citizens. Energy Citizens is not actually a grassroots organization at all. It's a coalition of industry groups and conservative advocacy organizations. But image is everything here. So while the audience was filled with employees of oil companies who had been encouraged to attend by their employers and in some cases bussed in, the American Petroleum Institute was smart enough to keep the oil companies off of the speakers list. The keynote speaker was the owner of the Houston Astros, Drayton McClain. The master of ceremonies was one of the announcers from the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Woohoo! And the entertainment highlight was a videotaped performance by country music sensation Trace Adkins. Grassroots at its finest. We actually called representatives from Mr. Adkins today to find out how much that sort of booking would cost. Trying to figure out if you really could do that if you were on a grassroots budget. They told us that they would get back to us. What's important about this story for American politics right now is that a number of oil companies that are members of the American Petroleum Institute, who are represented by the American Petroleum Institute in Washington, they claim to be in favor of the climate change legislation. These companies claim to be in favor of the legislation that this rally in Houston and many others like it are being held to oppose. The companies are in favor of the legislation, but they belong to an organization that's against it, that is telling them to even have their employees go to these rallies to put a human face on the opposition. It's sort of weird and contradictory, right? Except actually it's not weird at all. It's exactly the way that these things work. These guys are pros. Here's another example. This is UnitedForHealthReform.com. It's a very lovely, sort of relaxing website almost. It's very well laid out. It's got an image of a happy family doing stretches in a field. They're surrounded by the message, "Tell Congress to unite for healthcare reform." The website is full of glowing praise about achieving meaningful reform as a goal for all Americans. Now, the United in UnitedForHealthReform.com refers to United Health Group, the second largest health insurer in the country. United Health Group is most famous in the current healthcare debate for its connection to the Lewin Group. The Lewin Group is part of one of United Health Group's wholly owned subsidiaries. And the Lewin Group is the group that's producing these studies that are so frequently cited by Republican members of Congress about how risky healthcare reform would be.
According to the Lewin Group, 119 million Americans would lose the private coverage that they currently have.
Lewin and Associates, a consulting firm, healthcare experts.
In fact, the Lewin Group did a study.
Well, the Lewin Associates, which is a very respected technical firm.
There's one study from the Lewin Group.
One firm, Lewin Group, is telling us
what you're going to have, according to the Lewin think tank that specializes in healthcare.
The Lewin Group providing the anti-health reform talking points for Republicans and the dramatic numbers about all the bad things that will happen if we reform health care that happen to be off by what the nonpartisan sources say by a factor of 10. That group is actually United Health, the insurance company. But again, United Health on the surface maintains that it is supportive of health care reform. The lesson here is to watch what these corporations do, not just what they say. The other lesson here is that when you see a big, organized, purportedly grassroots event, And just as a citizen or as a blogger or as a reporter or as an elected official, if you are trying to assess the political import of that big, organized, purportedly grassroots event, you should find out who organized it. You should look at the fine print on the signs. Energy Citizens? Go to the website. Go to energycitizens.org. Go to that website. Click through the About Us and Participating Organizations page. Click on that benign-looking acronym API to see what that stands for. American Petroleum Institute. The fine print is where you can make out the strategy through these sparse, ostensible grassroots. Many of the groups that are listed in the fine print as energy citizens, participating organizations, are also involved in promoting a march on D.C. on September 12th. You can go to the website, 912dc.org, if you want to learn more about it. The fine print on this one is quite literally financial fine print. This anti-tax, anti-big government, anti-special interests march on Washington, this citizen uprising, this against the man movement, is being organized and run by, FreedomWorks. And nonprofit FreedomWorks has just hiked up the amount of money that it's charging organizations to take part in this grassroots march. So if you want to distribute your group's materials at the march, that used to cost the low price of $2,500. Now that'll be $10,000. Please, $10,000 will also buy your organization a speaking role at the march, which is, after all, very free marketing. FreedomWorks says that it is just trying to offset costs for stuff like stages and equipment, but charging $10,000 to take part in a grassroots march? Sort of like getting the millionaire owner of the Houston Astros to keynote your grassroots rally that's being attended by oil company employees who've been bussed in by their bosses. When the press reports on these events to assess their political importance, when politicians consider the message for them from these types of rallies, trust me, the most interesting stuff is in the fine print.